Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, GamerK, and it's time for the final video of January. The beginning of this 2020s is almost here, is almost done, ladies and gentlemen, and for the most part, the videos have been pretty good. The month has been pretty well. No issues. And it's time for a video game that I'm not exactly sure what to make of this. Basically, Shrek 2, the video game, the probably first and only movie game I ever played as a kid, is actually a lot better than most. And I know some of you who have played movie games are kind of shaking your head. Well, in 2004, this beautiful gem came about, and let's dive into this twisted fairy tale and see what comes from it. So Shrek 2, the game, really does have the advantage of building levels on a world that was kind of straightforward, but doing so in a fun way to progress the story, because that's usually what a movie game does. It progresses the story with a couple roadblocks here and there. And as far as I remember, Shrek 2 was one of my favorites for the main reason is that it was very engaging. It barely had any issues, and it didn't make me feel like I was just lazily going through the story like every other movie game that's ever been around. Surprisingly, the game was developed by Activision, which nowadays is kind of a bad thing for video games, but back in the day, they did well on this game. Aside a couple things. For one thing, I gotta start with is the story, obviously. And for those of you who haven't seen Shrek 2, you're either an infant, you're either a kid, or you just didn't have a fun childhood with Mike Myers, aside from Austin Powers. So basically, it's basically the story. Shrek and Fiona get a little note from her parents wanting them to meet them at Far, Far Away, which is basically Hollywood for this world. Also, I do like the inclusion of the storybook of each chapter. It flips through the pages and basically talks about what's going on in the story before the game starts. And I do love the humor they kind of implement into some of the cutscenes, some of the combat, and the storybook in general. There are a couple little jokes that are in there that are really fun. And now I'm pretty sure the original cast of the movies did not want to be associated with a video game, but whoever did the voices, give them credit. They did a pretty good job as far as at least they didn't do as bad as the NCIS video game. Yeah, there was no saving that. So the game starts out in Shrek's swamp before they leave. We need to collect eyeballs for some reason because Shrek gets hungry. Donkey makes some comment about parfaits. Okay. So the game is basically a combat/platform with a little bit of puzzle solving in general. The game consists of 4 playable characters, so 4 players can play. Who remembers playing 4 players on the PlayStation 2? I don't, because I didn't have that many friends who enjoyed playing video games at the time, nor did I have 4 controllers or that extender. So, throughout the game, you switch between each character, and each character will have their own strengths to get through each level. I'll get to those in a little bit. The level design is really well done, staying in touch to the realm of fairy tales and how each level is kind of designed in its color and its theme. And also, they included a whole bunch of new levels that only could be imagined by people of DreamWorks, such as the haunted forest, where the second level takes place. Building up more Far, Far Away as a hub world. Jack and Jill's farm, for one reason I will explain later. The mines. Everything in the game is designed beautifully. it's perfect for this world. Now, most developers would go overboard with something like this, but no, they kept it to a minimum of 11 levels, with including the final boss level, which, you know, is just the boss level. So 11 for a game like this, it doesn't drag too much, it doesn't overcomplicate everything, although some levels do feel like they're overcomplicated and prolong it to unreadable reasons. But overall, it is enjoyable, and I do get a kick out of it. So, like I said, 4 playable characters in each level, and it will switch half the time. The characters that you will use out of a 10-character roster, which honestly I kind of enjoy having, and they bring in characters that, a couple characters that weren't even in the movie. So I give them props for adding something that wasn't needed, but was needed. So the characters consist of obviously Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, Gingerbread Man, Little Red Riding Hood. I love her in this game. I believe she's voiced by Tara Strong, and she also plays an annoying pixie later in the game, and she's just fast talking. Huff and Puff Wolf, Puss in Boots later on, obviously. So the character designs are well done. The graphics in the game at the time for 2004 kind of makes it look a little muddy and kind of undetailed as much as it could be. But I think if they could redesign the game nowadays, it would be a lot better. But I'm reviewing the game based on what it was and not at what it could be. So, the graphics aren't a big problem. Nothing feels really irritating enough and muddy, except for the dark areas when you had a small TV that did not have HD, that would screw you over constantly because you had the poor luck of having a TV that did not have brightness settings, or it did and your remote just wouldn't work. So kind of things there for having the dark areas really fit and kind of screw you over if you're not paying attention, especially when the second level is escorting the 3 blind mice to make sure they don't get caught in mouse traps, fall off a bridge. You gotta actually throw them onto the other side of the bridge. So props there for making an escort mission even more annoying than it needed to be. Thank you. What else can I talk about? So yeah, like I'm saying, the story fits well within each level. It doesn't go off track. Okay, it kind of does a couple times, but it does so in a fun way. Not only that, but the fact that there's only like 3 major bosses in the game is kind of a letdown. And when I say boss fights, I'm not including the enemies. I'm talking about the characters and not just the random enemies that they did, like the giant trolls. Oh god, the trolls. Not to mention a giant spider in one segment of the game. And the trolls. So many trolls. There's more trolls in here than Troll Hunter. I'm not kidding. And they're all either bulky as hell, undamageable unless you know what you're doing, and also just recolored to make them more difficult. Also add the fact that they threw in 2 at once just to make your life difficult, being an ogre. Okay, what else? So, throughout the levels, each level will have its own Snapchat tasks, which are basically main objectives in the level and side stuff in the levels that, honestly, I kind of enjoy. It gives you a little bit of push to feel, because back in the day, we didn't have the trophies, we didn't have the achievements, so it kind of gave us a sense of purpose to do all this extra stuff, like collecting all the magic beans, which unless you know how to where to find them, is irritating as heck. The first level, freeing all the 7 dwarfs, finding them all. What else? What other side stuff can you do? I guess free the 3 little pigs in the second level. I think I'm forgetting a couple. They're just so long, and some of them I don't even remember half the time, so yeah, there's a good list for each level, so have at it. Good. The boss fights, I'll get to those in a minute. I'm going to continue to talk about the levels. Each character has their own super abilities or strengths that can be used throughout each level. So switching characters is needed. For example, Shrek, being an ogre, picks things up. It is Shrek on the cover, right? He is the main character. Why does he have the lamest ability? I mean, Fiona, for some reason, can slow down time whenever she grabs an hourglass, which is useful for fighting enemies, get through fast-paced obstacles. Why does Fiona have time-stopping abilities? Donkey using his burrow blast to break gates and obstacles and knock down trees. Gingerbread Man can throw cookies to attract enemies, which honestly is kind of... Isn't that kind of rude considering he is a cookie? Red Riding Hood has apple grenades. Puss in Boots can do a tightrope walk. That's pretty much it for all the abilities I can remember, because we don't switch characters that much, now that I think about it. We switch characters like every couple episodes, like one character every single area. So, yeah, it's... This whole character switching thing, it doesn't last long, especially near the end of the game where, oh boy, we get stuck with the handsome Shrek and Donkey together, so Shrek is basically Sir Lancelot jousting with his sword. Where was that in the movie? It wasn't. That's basically the point. Basically the point. What else? Let's see. The platforming sections are well done in order to progress through the level, where you will have to use certain characters in order to get, because certain characters can jump higher, certain characters can jump farther. So basically, it is kind of a select a character for the best job in the segment. The puzzles aren't that difficult if you kind of put 2 and 2 together. Basically, it's not that interesting for puzzles. They're just puzzles in terms of figuring out how to get through the obstacle. Not really super hard puzzles, just basic ones. My 2 favorite levels are Jack and Jill's Farm and Far, Far Away. But the main reason is these are hub worlds where you can kind of go and just relax a little bit, just enjoy the scenery. And also doing the side missions in order to progress, in order to complete the level. In Far, Far Away, you get the neat objectives of being King Harold's deputies to help him throughout Far, Far Away. For example, stopping an ogre from stealing treasure at the bank, or the jewelry store, which is just... it's not that difficult. All you gotta do is just collect the treasure behind him. Make sure he doesn't see you, or else you're in for a fight. Yeah, all you gotta do is just follow him behind him slowly and just collect all the treasure he drops. It's not that challenging. Defending Cinderella while she window shops. Okay. I guess Cinderella's a shopper now. I mean, can't she just get Fairy Godmother to poof her a whole bunch of shoes? Or, honestly, now that I think about it, she only needs the 1 pair. What else? Defeating... Oh, right. A vicious gauntlet where you have to fight rat after rat until you get to the rat catcher, which is pretty easy to beat now that I think about it. It's just the gauntlet of rats is the issue. Putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, which sounds stupid. It is. All you do is go through the section, collect the eggshells, and that's it. At least on Jack and Jill's Farm, we get some fun ones like defeating evil pumpkins. Oh, we get to go up a hill to help Jack and Jill get water while dodging giant tomatoes. Okay, now that I'm starting to say it out loud, these missions kind of sound very, very tedious and annoying. And they are. So I'm just glad that it was only the 2 hub areas in this game and not like every 3rd level, which would get annoying really quick. Very, 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 very quick. So like I said earlier, the humor in the game is very well done. In the cutscenes, during the gameplay, it's just good fun half the time. And they do a lot of good jokes if you know the humor. So, the game does that well, and the combat's actually not that bad. The combat really feels like every character gives it its all, pretty much. And it's fun. It's just good old fun, fighting as these characters against numerous enemies, such as Robin Hood and his merry men in the first level, turtles, piranhas, for some reason, thugs, possessed vegetables, mini trolls, those little Oompa Loompas that work in Fairy Godmother's factory, spiders. Yeah, so the enemy list kind of goes on for a while, and I like it. I like they didn't have just one type of enemy and just constantly redesign them. That's what I hate in video games. Now, the big part of this game is the hero time. Near the end or during each level, one character will have a moment to shine, and each one is unique. It's very rarely the same thing over and over and over and over again, which I get tired of really quickly. But each character does have their own unique skills to do a hero time. For example, in the first level, you have to get black-winged blackbirds in order to make a pie for the Red Riding Hood's grandmother. So who's the best for the job? And the way they do it, Magic Mirror comes out of nowhere and just says something like a contestant's coming up for a game show. Hero time. Fiona's is a musical QTE. I need a drink. And ironically, it's green. Honestly, if you haven't noticed, they took reference from the first movie. When she sung so well, she blew up the birds. And doing the QTE this way is, honestly, it fits. I mean, it's music, it's timing, and the better you do, the more birds you get, so good. Donkeys is at the end of the second level where you get on Dragon, and you have to chase the carriage that the evil witch with the gingerbread house sent over a cliff through. Somehow it's going right through a good path where you gotta dodge obstacles with Dragon. Shrek's is in the far, far away level, beating up the thugs and throwing them into the cage. Is Shrek getting the short end of the stick here? Then we get the Puss in Boots boss fight, which I was really looking forward to when I knew it was going to be a boss fight. I'll get to that later. I always discuss boss fights near the end. Who else? Puss in Boots is basically a tightrope walk up a waterfall. Gingerbread Man's is that down the hill tomato thing that I mentioned. Red Riding Hood's is basically the fairy godmother boss fight in the factory, which, now that I think about it, is not that impressive. Think Oogie Boogie's boss fight from Kingdom Hearts 2 if, it lacked creativity, charm, and basic enjoyment. All you gotta do is just dodge the blasts and just throw apples at her. Throw apples at her like, okay, I can't think of an old joke. Who else? Once you get, the big bad wolf has to climb up a staircase of doom to free the boys from prison, which honestly is a great platform for the wolf. Because he has the ability to double jump. Then as handsome Shrek and Donkey, you have to chase Fairy Godmother while she takes Sleeping Beauty in the mines. Are we sure this is Shrek 2? And then we have to do the Mongol thing with the giant cookie gingerbread and just basically shoot stuff out of the sky. Yeah, all the hero times kind of go downhill right after the big bad wolf. But they're really done well. And at least they don't do the same thing twice. Except when you get to except when you compare when you compare Donkey and Dragon with Shrek and Donkey's chase. It's basically the same thing with a different atmosphere and different timing. So, yeah, same thing basically. So, and the music in each level fits. It's whimsical when it's at the swamp and at Jack and Jill's farm and Far, Far Away. It's spooky and gritty when we get to the mine, the second level, the dark forest, and in the prison. Every single bit of music fits each level, which I'm happy for, because a good soundtrack in a game needs to fit a level. Because how odd would it be if I were to go to a kid's birthday party and then put on AC/DC Shook Me All Night Long. It would be very awkward, and I'm making a point here in saying this. Now, the big thing of this game is the boss fights. The boss fights aren't as they're not as complicated as I would once think. Puss in Boots, which I was really hoping to get like a big fight with him because we have, in this part of the story, we have Donkey, Shrek, Gingy, and Little Red. And I was thinking we were going to have a big fight with him where he's sneaking around and attacking us and we got to dodge him. And what do we get? Simple. Each character sits at 4 corners. Puss in Boots is in the middle. He'll attack one of us randomly, and we just gotta do a QTE to dodge and hit him. That's the entire boss fight, ladies and gentlemen. One of the coolest characters gets the lamest boss fight, but it doesn't end there. Then we have Fairy Godmother's boss fight in the factory, which is basically just, like I said, the second Oogie Boogie fight in Kingdom Hearts 2 with the conveyor belts, and we're just throwing apples at her. Basically, just a diet version of that before it was even a thing. And the final... Okay, I may taking my energy from Angry Joe's Ghostbusters 2016 review when he talked about the final boss. So I'm just gonna do this. The final level of this video game, it's beyond believable of that they could come up with this. I'm not joking around. I literally, and everyone will agree with me that the final level of this game is okay. I know I kind of drop what I'm saying here and there to make a point, but I just think of better ways to express it. So, here's the rest. Here's the most of the game. So, as the game goes up, the level's difficulty and enjoyment goes up. So, for most games, here's the difficulty, here's the enjoyment. Here's the final level. Notice how you can't see the level of hand for the level spike, and the level of enjoyment is right up the table? That's what that final level is. The final level is the difficulty spike is cranked up to pass the maximum limit, and the enjoyment is gone. It's all gone. For the most part, is because what do we get? You know, after everyone transforms back, we get to fight Fairy Godmother and her trolls. We fight at least 3 trolls, and they're all vomiting up. They're vomiting up bombs like they're Rico from Madagascar. And be careful, and also the floor will get electrified, so you have to have Puss in Boots go up onto a tightrope and walk away to hit a switch for some reason, and then you have to defeat all the trolls, and each troll has their own health bar, and it depletes the health bars. The health bars in these levels fall slower than fighting Zaldin in Kingdom Hearts 2 with your Kingdom Key. I'm not even joking. That's how slow the health bar depletes. It's barely non-existent at this point. Barely non-existent. And that's where it gets incredibly frustrating. And then, after you do that segment, you have to do a second segment, where you're also fighting Prince Charming. And then, after you defeat that, along with 2 more trolls, which throw up bombs again, you have to fight Fairy Godmother. Now, all of this would be okay if went for one important fact. The checkpoint system in this level is a joke. Because once you die, you start right at the beginning of the level. Which means the terrifying triplet trolls that you defeated, and then Prince Charming with 2 trolls, and then Fairy Godmother, once you die, you have to go right back to the start. So the headache you get from fighting them all again is worsened, and the level of enjoyment goes even further than the table because of how many times you will die during that final level. And then Fairy Godmother disappears. We don't even get a good ending cutscene. We get... I don't even remember at this point. Oh boy. So yeah, the boss fights in the game, what are the bitter taste of a dessert of an enjoyable dessert that you would eat. Then you get a very bitter undertone after you enjoy the savory flavor of whatever dessert you're enjoying. That's what this is. The boss fights in this game are a terrible aftertaste that did not need to happen. It's unenjoyable. So basically, this entire game as a whole, I give it mixed ratings a little bit. Also, the entire game is about 5 hours, which back in the day, it wasn't that bad. You know, I mean, it was just a game to enjoy. No real competition, no real achievement hunter status. But the game did what it wanted to do. And I gotta admit, it's a heck of a lot better than what Shrek the Third and Shrek the Fourth was. Trust me, I played Shrek the Third on Wii, and it was one of the most irritating and one of the most despicable things I've ever done in my life. Ugh, and I played worse games. I played annoying games. But overall, Shrek 2, the video game, does what it was supposed to do. Make the game more enjoyable and kind of create its own thing, its own world around it, enhancing the world of Shrek 2 rather than just simplifying it. It enhances it. And I just wish that most movie games would follow, I can't believe I'm going to say this, follow this example. Make it enjoyable, enhance the world of the movie without adding more of what we already know about the movies. Keep it interesting, don't overcomplicate everything, keep the interactions of the movie in certain spots, and then go wild and crazy by creating your own adventure in the other levels. I say every 2 levels, do the story. And then in between those, do your side stuff. Because that's what this game did. It started off with following the story while being creative. Then the second one was complete creative, was original. The third level, kind of sticking to what the main game, the movie was, while adding its own elements. The boss fights, awful, despicable, never play them. Well, I mean, you have to play them, but never replay those levels. Replay the enjoyable levels. The graphics, the environments feel like they went to DreamWorks and asked them how to design the levels. That's what I feel like they did. And the abilities, each character design fits and it looks perfect. The voice acting was darn near enjoyable. All the funny moments, all the other moments in the game definitely made me feel like these were the characters that I grew up with while watching the movie. So, overall, it did what it was supposed to. Not more I can say about that. GamerK's final verdict for Shrek 2, the video game, is an oddly ogreish 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10. The only reason I give it an 8 out of 10 is because of how enjoyable it was from when I was a kid. And if my PS2 still works, I may definitely replay this game. It's enjoyable. It's a lot more enjoyable than the Shrek Super Slam that I will never ever play again. Well, that's all for the month of January, ladies and gentlemen. I know there's another week, but I'm going to leave that for just coming up with what I'm going to do for the next month. Speaking of which, like, comment, subscribe down below, join the Game Hub, give me your opinion of old games, DLC, top 13 subjects. And coming next week for the first week of February, yeah, I'm going to get down and dirty about a certain Kingdom of Hearts. That was basically dumb, wasn't it? Well, I do like trilogies. Unfortunately, let's see what things could have been improved in the third installment and the long-awaited installment of an amazing and beloved series. This is GamerK, logging out.